Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, voyager, recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another Roll20 review, my written and video review series. Take a look at the marketplace section of online role-playing website Roll20.net. With this video, I'll be reviewing the Marvel Multiverse RPG Rulebook, designed by Matt Forbeck, as well as some adventures available here on Roll20. This review has been sponsored by Roll20, and a review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoyed these videos, consider supporting me via patreon.com/RogueWatson. Those of you that have been watching me for a while or listening to me know that I'm a pretty big Marvel fan. I have been a subscriber to Marvel Unlimited for almost a decade, I think now. I read a ton of comic books. I play a lot of Marvel video games. And, of course, I'm deep into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm a big Marvel fan. I tend to reference it. In fact, for our own D&D games, I tend to look at, maybe the average good, awesome Marvel experience and storyline to really craft those stories and the themes of those stories together. So I'm interested, for sure, in a Marvel role-playing game, an RPG. I've not played any Marvel RPGs in the past. I have played a lot of superhero video games, obviously, and Marvel ones, as well as, MMOs like City of Heroes and Champions Online, where you could build your own hero, which you can definitely do that here. So specifically, we're going to be looking at the core rulebook bundle, which is available on Roll20. There's also a launch bundle, and I'll actually be talking about the differences and kind of the adventures and the content that you get, as well as going over the rulebook and how basically things look in Roll20, including the new character builder. So there's a lot to cover, so strap in for the Marvel Multiverse RPG review. So what you get with the core rulebook bundle, which is available on Roll20 for $49.99, is the core rulebook, which is 300 plus pages. It is integrated directly into the compendium and has all the rules you need for creating your own superhero character, as well as including I think it was over 100, maybe 120 set stat blocks from various heroes and villains and henchmen and things, as well as having really good chapters on being a game master and just running games, and as well as a lot of background information on the running the Marvel multiverse and all the different events and things that happen. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in there, and yet I think it does a pretty good, concise job of bringing everybody kind of up to speed. So I was generally pretty impressed with how the rulebook is laid out in terms of its lore and GM advice. Also included is the token marker set, which allows you to add some custom tokens into your game, which look a little bit more maybe comic book hero-y. The art pack, which includes over 1,000 art handouts, including over 250 character tokens. In fact, I think if we jump into this for a second, you can see all the different tokens it adds. So these are kind of the handouts. Basically, what Roll20 has done, and I've noticed they've been doing this, especially for the last couple releases, is anytime there's any art in the rulebook, or maybe even on promos or things, they just include it in here. So, in other words, it's included in your art gallery in Roll20, and you can add this art anywhere into any of your games in Roll20, not even necessarily a Marvel RPG game, but just anywhere. You can use it. But the important thing to me is that all of these tokens you see, which are created from all the different art pieces in the rulebook, are usable as tokens in your game, including a lot of pretty useful, like generic looking characters, which frankly are going to be probably more useful than the actual recognizable heroes and villains, which are going to be used a little bit more rarely. So, but that's still a very, very nice offer to have. Don't just discount these giant art tokens. That one is 1,100 items. That's ridiculous. That's a huge ad. And then the adventure you get, the rulebook itself does not come with an adventure as far as I'm aware, but this bundle here comes with the Cataclysm of Kang adventure preview. So Cataclysm of Kang is, make sure I got this right, is not out yet. I don't have a tab open for it. I have a million tabs open to cover this. It's actually releasing in November as a full campaign adventure that is designed to take players from rank 1 up to rank 6. Which means they start off as like basically just goon levels all the way up to like phenomenal cosmic power. The preview is basically just the rank 1 adventure, which I'll be covering, and is kind of lame because it's very, very low level content. So that's what you get in the core rulebook bundle. And then if we add on the mega launch bundle, you can also get the Revenge of Super-Skrull adventure, which is more of what you would consider an introductory full-on adventure, and it's designed specifically for Roll20. And it also just includes the full Cataclysm of Kang campaign adventure. So you're kind of pre-ordering that because, again, that doesn't come out until November, and that's $109.99. I think you end up saving like $10 or something if you get it all at once. I will, at the end of this video, tell you what I think you should do when it comes to jumping into the Marvel RPG, but I will go over these adventures as well. We'll be using the Cataclysm of Kang adventure preview to actually kind of jump into a game for now, just because, again, if that's the core rulebook bundle you get, which is the $49.99 bundle, then that's what the adventure you're going to see, which is these maps here. This adventure comes with 2 full color battle maps, which kind of designed like I think maybe Paizo does this, where their maps might cover different areas on one big map, you know, different levels and things. Full color, which is great, and then also includes a generic battle map. Roll20, which is like a blank asphalt street map. Roll20 also includes a tips page, a token page, and a dynamic lighting example page. I guess I could go ahead and show you these before we dive into the rule book, but I think these are all pretty useful. So token page is pretty common. They've been doing this for years and years and years, where basically they just include everything, all the tokens that are included in adventure get slapped onto this kind of blank page just so you can see them, see if there's any size differences. You can copy, paste them wherever you need. These are ones that I've just dragged over from the compendium to make sure that functionality was working, and it is. So that's pretty common. The Roll20 tips page, also something they've been doing regularly with the last few years of releases. And yes, I've been covering Roll20 reviews since before they did any of this stuff. And it just helps give some advice and reminders, especially if you're new to Roll20, if you're a new user, or even if you've been using Roll20 for a while, but maybe you don't know all the little tips and tricks involved in explaining how the GM layer works, the compendium access, how you can click something to shift focus over there. I couldn't get this part to work, actually, the dragging the names down below to create kind of a quick button. I wasn't able to get that one to work, but having dynamic lighting work in there with Fog of War, or the way the walls work. So all that information is here on this tips page, which is very handy. And then this is a brand new experience for me reviewing Roll20, and I've reviewed things a lot, but this is the first time I've seen them do this, which is an example page that very nicely details how dynamic lighting works. So dynamic lighting, you can use Roll20 for free. If you want this content, you'll have to pay for it because it's on the marketplace. But otherwise, anybody can jump into Roll20 for free. And in fact, if you're the GM, you can purchase this content, have everybody else jump in, and then you can share your compendium up to, I think it's 5 slots. And everybody can play together under that one purchase, essentially. Dynamic lighting, though, requires at least the GM to be a subscriber to Roll20, and that opens up this fancy functionality where you can see how the actual lighting works, and you have to use just normal Fog of War. So to do that, we can hit Control-L, which allows you to preview what this particular token looks like, and you can see it dynamically changes based on what they're looking at. But look at all these nice little like chat bubble type indicators that tell you exactly how everything works. It uses examples of like, hey, here's how you do, if you want to have a scene that's both daylight and darkness, then you can, turn off darkness on the map and then turn on day functionality. By the way, I need to turn on the actual light button. There you go. Now you can see all the dynamic lighting on here. It's on the light map. They just talk about how you can use one-way lighting barriers to make it different elevations, so you can look down but somebody else can't look up and see you. How you can use windows and doors. You can lock those doors. You can hide those doors. The way the dark vision can work as an example. This is a really, really cool, handy map to use, and I appreciate that it's actually kind of a cool looking map in general. Kind of a modern day thing you could use for a superhero. So I huge thumbs up on including this. This is very useful, because otherwise what you're probably going to have to do is go on to YouTube and have somebody like me. I should really just look at this map and just show you all like how this works as a separate video in terms of how to get the most out of Roll20, and especially how to use that dynamic lighting functionality whenever they added the most recent, still recent to me, it's probably a year old now, the doors and windows, which has been a really cool quality of life addition. So this is a huge, huge thumbs up. I realize I haven't even really talked about the adventure or the rules yet, but I really wanted to highlight how just useful this dynamic lighting example map is. If you're not a Roll20 subscriber, then none of that appeals to you, or applies to you, sorry, and instead you can use the old Fog of War. All right, so for the Marvel RPG, how does it work? Well, I will say that if you are a 5e fan, you've played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and chances are if you're here, you probably have, because that's what I've been doing on my channel for a very long time, and what a lot of folks have done. I think you can transition into the Marvel Multiverse RPG fairly easily. It's not a D20 system. Instead, it's a D6 system, and it uses 3D6. But one of those D6s, is supposed to be a special dice that is either different color or some other indication. Obviously, if you buy the box set, it comes with a specific Marvel dice, where instead of a 1, it has the word Marvel written on it. So that's just the special Marvel dice it uses. It looks, like this. So every time you roll a skill check or combat or basically anything in the game, you roll 3d6 with the caveat that one of those 6s has a Marvel symbol instead of a 1. Now that's important because that Marvel symbol acts as a 6. So automatically you've got one dice which is way better than the others, right? It's got 2 6s and no 1s. Also, if you roll the Marvel facing specifically, then you get what's called a fantastic roll. And it could either be a fantastic success or a fantastic failure technically, although it's probably going to be a fantastic success because that Marvel is worth a 6, right? So if you get a success on something and you rolled the Marvel facing, then you get the fantastic result. And that usually means something in your power set usually states, hey, this other thing happens if you roll a fantastic. So a lot of the powers, that's kind of the way it balances out. They'll do like normal damage or something, but if you happen to roll a fantastic and a success, then they'll also do the extra, elemental effect, or you'll pin somebody down, or you'll set them on fire, or some extra little thing to it. So it's kind of only things really happen on triggering that kind of critical effect. But remember, it's not a crit if normally, if coming from 5e, which is what I'm coming from, so that's kind of the lens I'm using to review this, you would only get a crit 1 in 20 times on average, unless you're a certain subclass or something. Whereas here, it's more like 1 in 6. So you're doing it a lot more often. Although granted, you could technically still fail if you rolled bad on the other 2 dice, but that means you would get a fantastic failure, which hilariously does not actually mean you fail in fantastic fashion. It just means you get to fail forward. Like, even though this bad thing happened, you also did this other good thing. Like, you accidentally did something good, or maybe you buffed yourself with a temporary thing, or debuffed them, or some mechanic that the narrator is supposed to do. I believe the GM in this case is called the Narrator, by the way. And that's basically the whole gist of it. You roll 3d6 on everything. I mean, I guess it would help if I opened up a character sheet and you could see how that worked, which the heroes here, unfortunately, are not very fun or interesting to look at because they are just a bunch of rank 1 nobodies. One of them is weirdly like an immortal dude who's been around since like the medieval ages, and yet he's still level 1. Like, bro, what have you been doing all these years? He does have a healing factor, which is kind of useful. Otherwise, they're just generic people with weapons. Some of them might be a little bit more stronger, like Claire. Others are a little more agile, like Frogman here, who's, I don't think, an actual Frogman. I think he's just a dude in a wetsuit. I guess a really fancy looking themed wetsuit. But they're all level 1, and level 1 is really shitty. Level 1 is basically like you're a goon. You're like a minion in, a video game or a comic book or something. You're kind of at that level. Like, all the minions and goons, Hydra agents or AIM scientists or something would be level 1. So it really sucks to put a hero at level 1. I can see why that's there, because everybody kind of has to start somewhere. But you don't necessarily have to either. You can start anywhere on the rankings, and that's another big part of the gameplay, is the way the ranks work. Is, heroes are at different ranks. Did I close that rulebook? I should have done that. So this is how the compendium looks if you want to just look at the rulebook here. And if you want to actually jump around to different areas, you can select those different things in the compendium. So different ranks would be, let's see, what are the examples they give? Rank 2 would be like a street level hero, like a Daredevil or somebody. Once you get up to like rank 3 or 4, you're more like Avenger level, you're Spider-Man, you're Black Widow, you're Captain America. Once you are rank 5, you're kind of one of the best superheroes on the planet, so you're probably like a Doctor Strange, or maybe even a Thor. Thor might be rank 6 though, and then rank 6 is specific, like your cosmic level, like you're taking on the biggest, like Captain Marvel, who can actually like punch Thanos in the face kind of a thing. That's where you are. So the interesting thing is, coming from 5e, which is all about leveling up and the hero's, journey and progress and stuff, in superheroes and in true comic fashion, you don't necessarily... sometimes you can go from one rank to another, especially in the case when they have like young heroes. After a while, they may actually ascend to maybe the next rank up. So you might start off at rank 1 or 2 and then get to like 2 or 3. But generally, everybody's gonna kind of stay in their lane, right? You don't have a Spider-Man is just not getting stronger and suddenly he's like cosmic level taking on, galactic threats or something. He's still friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So you got to kind of get out of the mindset of like leveling up and things. However, you could still change your ranks around, but through the course of a game. And in fact, that's what Cataclysm of Kang Adventure is about, is ranking up. I'm curious to see how that looks in a Marvel RPG, going from a low rank to cosmic level rank. Hopefully the story accounts for that and it makes sense in that journey. But the other adventure, Revenge of the Super-Skrull, I think does a better job of just sticking to characters. Okay, here's kind of the threat that they would be tackling, and would maybe make more of a nice introductory adventure set. Because rank 1, like, you don't really have any powers. You're basically you're like a Maria Hill or somebody. Like, you've got maybe a gun, and maybe you're good at shooting it or something. You don't really have like cool supernatural powers. I guess when people think about when they want to play a superhero game, they want to be able to shoot fire out of their eyeballs or something, which I think you need to be at least rank 2 to be able to do that. I think the rulebook does a pretty good job of explaining how to make characters, how to make skill checks, the power sets that are available, which you basically select from a group of powers. I will go over the character vault, which will probably be easier to do in terms of building the actual character out. But in terms of the rulebook, I think it does a fine job of explaining, how combat works, weapons, healing. Everybody has karma points, which is kind of like a combination, again, to use 5e, a combination of inspiration and hit dice. You can use karma to give yourself advantage on things. You can also use karma to heal yourself or restore your focus, which is like your mana bar or something, your energy level, as well as kind of your sanity in a way. If your focus is completely down, you become like, I don't know, dumbstruck, I forget what the word is, demoralized, I think. But I feel like I understood how everything worked and how to play the game from reading through the rule book, which is what a rule book should do, as well as giving me a really good idea on how to run a game here. Honestly, and the quick rules didn't have this chapter, the chapter 10 narrator. Really, really big thumbs up here on just general advice on how to run the game, how to run certain tricky aspects of the game, like illusion and mind control, like time travel. I already talked about how the rank thing can be weird, but you can also mix different ranks together. Like, technically you've got, Avengers will have, Thor will join the Avengers alongside somebody like Spider-Man or something. You could have people of different ranks as long as you know that they should be handling, different threats and maybe taking on different tasks. So that kind of thing, how to, tie together different adventures and how to just run different aspects. I just thought it was a really helpful section that a lot of GMs really need to know, and helps in that regard. So big thumbs up for specifically that chapter. Obviously the whole thing does a good job, and explaining all the different Marvel stuff in like one chapter, like, hey, here's the Marvel universe, and here's the different major events you should know and different timelines you should set in. That does a fine job as well. All right, let's go over the character builder, because that is a big part of a new rulebook, and I think it's also new here, because normally you would use the character monster, which is something that's been around in Roll20 for a couple of years now, where you could build your character right here in the game. However, there's a new thing now, which is the I don't know what they call it, character creator, I guess. It's the updated character vault. So the character vault's always been here in Roll20, by the way. This is where you would export your characters to, and then you could import them into other games. So it's a way to, if you've got a character in multiple Roll20 campaigns, you can take them out of that game. They exist inside this digital stable roster of characters, and you can import them into a different game. So and I presume this is all coming soon with different, you can see on the artwork here, it all says coming soon for different character sheets and game systems. The very first one, for whatever reason that's available, is the Marvel RPG. Maybe it just coincides with the fact that, hey, anything new coming is now going to be using this character vault system, which allows you to create characters without actually being in a game, which I can briefly just talk about Baldur's Gate 3. I really wish that allowed you also to just build characters. I like making characters, like theory crafting characters. I'm probably not the only one who just, whether you're min-maxing or you've just got a cool concept for a character, it's a very cool theme. You just want to be able to build that character out without necessarily having to go through the motions of being in a game system, or having to like click start and then immediately go through the entire introductory of a game. This allows you to finally build characters outside of any kind of campaign or anything, and just build them as part of your character vault. And then once they're done, they just exist in your character vault as your roster of heroes, and you can import them into any other game. So with the Marvel one, it automatically obviously uses all the compendium information from the Marvel rulebook that you've got. You can just click here to actually use any of the heroes available. Is actually a great showcase of all the different heroes that come with the rule book. So automatically, if I wanted to, I could play as any of these heroes or villains that you see right now. And I believe there are over 100 of these available. Maybe not the most niche ones, but certainly pretty much everybody in the MCU I can think of, and then a lot more in addition to that can be found in here, which is very, very nice. And a good mixture of ranks also. You can see where there's, it's not just, you can, if you want to just immediately play as, a rank 4 hero or something, you can do that. And just as long as the adventure, has the appropriate level. See, average civilian is rank 1. Like, it sucks to play rank 1. Or, of course, we can make our own hero by going to the character builder. And then this walks you through everything similar to how the character monster would work. So if I wanted to make a rank 2 character, it tells me I'm going to have 10 ability points and 8 powers. So I can click on next, and then of course it tells you exactly like what level everybody should. This is like equal to a street level hero that would be prowling around like a Daredevil or somebody. I think Spider-Man's actually a little bit more because he kind of handles all of New York, but maybe somebody like a Luke Cage or a Daredevil or a Jessica Jones, who's like maybe one area of one town would be a rank 2 hero, which is already going to be a lot better than a rank 1. So I get to select, I get to do basically point buy with my stats. I don't know what I will make here. Let's make, I always thought a character I made as a kid was like a scorpion looking dude, basically like Scorpion, I guess, as a villain, but more buff, stronger, and be more of a, not a tech scorpion, but like a mutated, like, no, he's like half insect fucking guy. So maybe I'll pump points into melee and resilience. You can see my health going up automatically as I pump points into resilience, because that is resilience times 30 is your health. And then you've got vigilance, ego, logic, and yes, they spell Marvel. So it still has 6 attributes that cover everything. Your attributes, your melee is used for melee attacks. Your agility is used for range attacks. Resilience is health. Vigilance, I believe, is your focus stat, which is kind of your mana system, as well as initiative. And then ego and logic. Logic is used for, it's basically intelligence and wisdom. Like ego, or sorry, I guess it's more like charisma and intelligence. Can be used for certain checks, but also for certain powers. So if you want to use like mental power or something, you'd probably be using your ego stats for that. So let's just make him kind of a melee bruiser. And you can see I've got a 5 cap, so I would only be able to do up to 5 points in each one regardless, even if I wanted to min-max a little bit. So I can choose my origin. There's a bunch of origins available here. I can be a magic origin, a mutant, a symbiote, weird science, which is like, Spider-Man or somebody. We'll just go with that. And what that will do is it'll give you certain tags, which come in the form of traits. I guess traits and tags. So one of them, I think trait is the mechanical one, and then tag is like the role-playing one. So one of them kind of gives you some more context about, who you would care about, what you should do, where you're coming from. Like this one gives me the weird, the science one gives me the weird stat, and then I just chose criminal, which gives me maybe certain connections, probably in the criminal, crime ring or something. And then traits actually give you abilities that function in the game. So I believe I can choose 2 at rank 2, so it's equal to my rank. And, whatever. Battle ready, I add plus 30 to focus, bloodthirsty, breathe differently, lose 1 health for every minute they don't have sort of resistant health and breathe properly. Some of these are negative, by the way, and I don't know if I don't think you get any bonuses for choosing them. I was kind of hoping there was maybe a little bit of a system where, like, hey, if I chose negative ones, I could become positive in other areas. I don't think that's quite how this one works. And then power sets lets you choose from different powers. You get a bonus if you choose from only certain powers. I believe it's scaled to your rank. So if you stick to like fewer power groupings than your rank, then you get to choose extra powers. And also for every power you don't choose, you can actually pump up your ability stats. So you can be a little bit more simpler and just have even more beefier stats. But there's a lot of different power groupings here, and each grouping can essentially be reflavored however you want to. Like, melee weapons could include a whole bunch of different things. Elemental control literally can be anything from lightning, lightning, energy, fire, air. There's just force. I think you can also do force fields as like telekinesis. There's weather control. Tactics is just, having, mindfulness of being a good leader, essentially. I think you can get most of what I'm thinking of through these things. You might have to be clever with like reflavoring some of them, and there are basic powers which you can use to pump up your stats and stuff. So I think it's a pretty good character builder. It's very attractive, and it works pretty well from what I can see. I think if we return to the character vault, you can see one of them I built down here. So maybe we'll try to export this one to the Marvel RPG, if I can find Cataclysm of Kang. So let's export you to that game. Exported successfully. And there they are. They're at the end. This is my Scorpion dude. Shout out if you know where this name is from, Scorpion. So you can see the character that I built is now ready to go in this game. I did not include a token. I could have done that in the character builder. I just didn't. I do like the fact that the art is actually front and center right here, which is pretty nice looking. But you can see all the stats. And for this character sheet, it's pretty attractive. I like the deep red. I think it fits the comic book style. Although, weird thing, a lot of the artwork for the maps is all very colorful, and that is not the case with this character sheet. It's actually not very colorful. It's kind of darker, but I think the red is obviously very Marvel-y, so it looks good there. We can click on these buttons to make the things appear on there. If I need to make a melee attack, the way damage is calculated, this would actually be not an attack. This would be a check right here. The attack, I believe, just rolls the damage for you. The damage is multiplied by your multiplier depending on what your rank is, and it uses that middle Marvel dice to come up with the damage. And the damage gets crazy because the multiplier is tied to your rank. So literally higher rank here is just rolling that many more d6s essentially for damage, which, I mean, that does kind of feel appropriate in a lot of ways. You can see the different tabs within the character sheet. I think is really nice looking, though. You don't have to like do anything up here to shove over to entirely different areas. They're just nice little tabs built in, role play sections. All the main stuff you should do is here on the combat screen. A reminder of all the actions you can do, which is basic for everybody. Reactions, movement, as well as any specific powers that you've got. And I believe you can click on that to have them appear right here in the chat box. Also has a list of conditions. I like that the conditions are listed here. However, I don't know if this has actually any functionality in the game, including not even like saying what they are. So I mean, I'm really happy you can click them, and like if the GM says, hey, you're pinned right now, you can click pinned. But then the player would have to be like, okay, well, what does pinned mean again? Like, so I don't know if there's any way to actually, there's no tooltip here. I don't know if there's a way to bring that up or something, because that comes up all the time in D&D, and we've been playing D&D 5th edition for years, and we still have to look up the freaking difference between like restrained and grappled and all these different conditions and effects, and I imagine that will be the same here. We'd have to look those up. So while I'm glad that you can mark that in here in the character sheet, and there's a very specific, very large area for marking conditions, I wish it actually went a bit step further and either had a reminder on there or a tooltip or something that told me exactly what that means. I think only in one of them, was it Demoralized, that like gives you trouble, which is kind of like disadvantage, where you have to re-roll a die. I don't know if that's baked in also. I think you might have to manually choose and re-roll the dice there. It'd be kind of nice if there was some deep integration there, but I think that's the only one that would actually cause some kind of re-roll or something. It's not like the Pathfinder where there's all these different, this is a -1 or -2 or something. I don't think that's generally the case here. In fact, it uses pretty much the advantage-disadvantage system from D&D 5e, because you can have edge on something, which means you take your worst die, re-roll it, and use the better of the two, or trouble on something, which means you take your best die, re-roll it, and use the worst of the two. Pretty much exactly like 5th edition works. All right, so quickly to go over this adventure, Cataclysm of Kang adventure preview. I don't think it's very good. I don't have much great things to say about it. Essentially, you stumble upon a bunch of goons who have recently burned down this restaurant, and you can work with this restaurant owner, I guess, and he's been, I guess it's appropriate for the level, but again, I just think rank 1 is so lame. Like, you're just random people pretty much off the street trying to help people, which is just, I don't know, to me, if you're trying to introduce people to Marvelverse RPG, they want to run in with freaking superheroes, or even they could be low-level superheroes, but they still want to have their superpowers. In this case, you're rank 1, you just have no real superpowers. So I didn't find it very exciting. The maps are very nice. You get full color maps, and they use all the new bells and whistles of the doors, and there's dynamic lighting up everywhere, and there's actually very large maps which you only use pretty much a small portion of for the most part. The plot line is that these Magia, which are the kind of just the mob in the Marvel Universe, are buying up all this area because they've recently been contacted from another multiverse, an equivalent of Madame Mask's, whatever her equivalent is on the other side of this portal, and they're trying to connect their different universes together. And there's a scene like towards the end where you're battling Madame Mask, and like a Captain America from the alternate verse comes in. He's like, oh no, they're coming through, and there's this evil version of Silver Surfer coming through called Crimson Surfer, and you have to like stop him and shut it down. So the end part of it is kind of fun. I don't know as much as I guess that's the main plot line, because you can pretty much stop them from starting this portal up. Goes further into the whole like multiverse thing and how to stop that from happening. But I wasn't terribly impressed in terms of what this is. I guess I need to look at the full campaign really to get a full context of this adventure. I'm not a fan that this is included as the official, like, hey, this is, your play this, as your first adventure into here. Whereas really what this is the first step into a much larger campaign. This would be like if you took a Paizo release of a adventure path and just played the first one, but it was like half as long, and you were only like level 1 and 2 for the whole thing. Although in this case you're really only level 1 like the whole time. So I don't know. To me it's kind of disappointing. And I wasn't too excited about like the heroes or anything in there either, and you're just fighting again a bunch of goons and stuff. But the maps are very nice. It looks very good on Roll20. The improvement, however, and I'll keep going quickly if I can, is this one, which is Revenge of the Super-Skrull. This one is here. It is sold separately for $19.99, or it is included in the launch mega bundle, which I talked about earlier, which includes the adventure, the Cataclysm of Kang, both the preview that I just basically talked about, and then the full campaign, which is coming in November, as well as this Revenge of Super-Skrull adventure. I do like this one, the Revenge of the Super-Skrull. This one is an awesome little adventure, and I think it's probably a little bit longer than you'd want for a one-shot, but I love the way it's organized. I believe it's actually designed for Roll20, and the one that reminded me of the most was the Spelljammer campaign, which has also worked very well for Roll20 because it's broken up into these individual scenes, and you can use these scenes as these individual handout journal entries, and it just makes it really easy to navigate and figure out where the players are and what information I need. I've seen adventures which have too few of these journal entries, and you have to like scroll down and down and down to find information, and ones that have too many, and they're just a fucking mess of all these different things. This one is perfect the way it's laid out, and the fact that some of them are like, hey, if the players do this, almost a choose your own adventure, if they make this decision, then go to this scene. If they make this decision, then go to this scene. That's also really helpful for the game master. So this one is really good. It looks great. It starts off with a bank robbery, which is awesome. Obviously, I'm never a fan of not having token art here, and the fact that we just saw over 200 or whatever tokens. Like, come on, Roll20, you can come up with a generic bank robber token and put that on the map for me, please. But it's awesome. You can play as actual heroes in this one, because you're playing as rank 2 and 3 heroes. It's all very street level. So Ant-Man, Daredevil, Hawkeye, Luke Cage, Ms. Marvel, and one of my favorite heroes, X-23, aka Laura Kinney as Wolverine. Or you could make your own heroes as long as they're of that same rank. And the whole plot line is actually tied into the Secret Invasion storyline. I guess the most recent one I'm not actually caught up in. I just talked about how much I love comics, but I'm always a few years behind on comics as I'm reading up. Where it involves a bunch of Skrulls, on Earth, but there's like good Skrulls and bad Skrulls working against each other. They're, posing as agents. It involves MODOK and infiltration of the AIM headquarters, the whole dungeon crawl for going through the AIM lab, which looks really great, and has a big battle with MODOK at the end. And then the finale smartly uses fewer maps, because the finale actually takes place back at the S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house as you deal with the revelation that some of the Skrulls are actually bad Skrulls, and we're trying to do bad things. So I do really like this adventure, to the point where if you're going to be serious about getting the Marvel Multiverse RPG, and you're getting the core rulebook bundle, frankly, I think you'd be disappointed in the Cataclysm of Kang preview adventure. I just don't think there's enough there to make people excited or interested in this game. My advice would be to also grab make sure Eric does the right tab. There's too many tabs. This one, the Revenge of the Super-Skrull, which again is sold separately at $19.99. You could, I guess, get the launch mega bundle. That's basically a pre-order, though. You could save a little bit of money, but I have no idea what this big campaign is like. It's supposed to, like I said, take players from rank 1 to rank 6, be absolutely humongous. I guess it'd be like 6 of those, size adventures in one. But that's not coming till November, and if there's enough interest, I can look at reviewing it then. But otherwise, I would definitely recommend playing Revenge of the Super-Skrull, and just seems like a really fun introductory adventure, something that I would definitely look at running for my group to show off and get interested in the Marvel Multiverse RPG. All right, let's go over my pros and cons for this RPG on Roll20 Pro. The rulebook provides a wealth of world-building information and game mastering advice. I do think it's a fairly well-done rulebook. I don't think it's perfect, but I knew how to play it, and more importantly, I got a good feeling for the tone I should be at, the way I can mix and match the ranks, how to handle all those tricky situations, what to do if I run into a TPK or something, like things that, like, frankly does a better job than the much maligned, justifiably so, D&D 5e Dungeon Master's Guide rulebook. I think this one actually is kind of an improvement in a lot of ways on there, specifically that chapter. Pro character sheets are attractive and intuitive. There's some lacking some stuff, which I'll get into in a second on my con, but I think they look good. And the character builder is a nice evolution of the character monster. That was this character vault system. The upgraded character vault allows you to create characters in this whole thing and be able to build a character just really easily by just dragging and dropping things. Basically turning it into kind of a video game experience works very, very well. So a thumbs up on that system. Pro, Revenge of the Super-Skrull, which is sold separately, is an awesome introductory adventure built for Roll20. I had nothing but good things to say about that adventure. Pro, colorful maps and huge reservoir of tokens and handouts. You get a hilarious amount of amazing extra, handouts and tokens that you can use in any of your games, regardless of even if they're Marvel or not. And Pro Roll20 tips page and dynamic lighting examples are hugely helpful for new users. Oh my goodness, this is awesome, and I'm really excited to see this on every product going forward. Cons, rank 1 is very lame in this system, and the entire preview adventure is designed for rank 1 heroes. Now, they eventually do rank up as they progress through the campaign, but you don't get that here. You only get, in this one adventure preview, the rank 1 adventure, and I think it would just be very disappointing for a lot of people to jump in, wanting to play superheroes, and it turns out that whole adventure, they're just... Even a level 1 player character has like some powers, and I really think you have just almost nothing as a rank 1 hero in this system, at least especially the ones they gave you as sample heroes. Maybe that's also my problem. The sample heroes were also pretty lame. And con, I think the character sheets lack some important functionality, such as adding equipment and weapons. There's a big thing about how, like a Magia Tough, could use like a club or a pistol that should add a +1 to their multiplier, which is huge, a whole nother D6. But I couldn't figure out a way to actually add that in here, aside from going into the character sheet and like modifying it that they've got it in there. But then I have to remember, like, okay, but this includes the pistol. So I just couldn't figure out a way to like add equipment, I guess, outside of them using their powers. So I wasn't quite sure about that. So maybe something I missed, but in that case, maybe it's lacking a little bit of intuitiveness, I suppose. Final verdict, the Marvel Multiverse RPG doesn't break much new ground in the tabletop RPG genre, but should prove comfortably familiar to D&D 5e fans who want to play within the Marvel universe, and looks fantastic on Roll20. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own adventures here on my YouTube channel, and you can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. Thank you.